Hello, everybody. We are live now. I am Rubens Kignel. I'm here with my colleague, which I never met face by face, only online, with very much in touch with these times. Anat Ben Israel, which is a body psychotherapist, biodynamic psychotherapist, a teacher, and a supervisor. And she lives in Seattle, United States. Where it is right now 11 a.m., I believe, and here
Yes.
in Sao Paulo is 3 p.m., 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. So, Anat, welcome. Um, I'm really happy that we have this opportunity to share some of the things of our profession, of our life in these times that all over the world we are going into different and difficult times. I wouldn't start that before we just share, you know, uh, what we are feeling at the moment in our countries, because in the United States something very strong and very important is happening in the way of the population coming to the streets, and showing their indignation about what happened in the United States. And in Brazil, at the same time, is bit by bit starting, the same situation where people today, for the first time, went to the streets to protest against our government. Not a lot of people, but it's already very symbolic. You know? So it would be nice if we take some minutes just to share how are we feeling about that. So if you want to start, and then we can follow you, and then we go more into our work. How are we feeling in our clinic, the line work we are doing, etc. Yeah, is that all right?
Yes, yes, and thank you so much, Ruben, for inviting me to have this time together and to have a conversation, a contemplation from our own self to the countries we live in, to the countries we are connected to, and as well to what's happening today, which are very important events. Just a few days ago, the world was, and it's different yet again. So I think that I would say what I am, if I would say what I feel at the moment, um, that there is so much tension that has been building for so long for different people for different reasons, that what's happening in the United States is a huge explosion, so much rage. Um, but I would say underneath the rage, there's so much pain that has been accumulating there for a long time. And it does not belong to, nothing really to do with politics. It has to do with the human condition, with the human trust, human mistrust, and with our connection and loss of connection as well. So those are very intense times, and they began before even this whole extraordinary situation of the the virus, and then continued in time, and now it was just that little spark that ignited this huge, literally firebomb here. So it is interesting, and there are many ways to look at it. But from the very basic human experienced, those are very sad times, that there is so much suffering that it is expressed in this way, that there is this space. So many things indeed are happening as we speak, on a country, community, individual, global levels. So it's,
Yes,
yeah.
it's very strong what's going on, because the crisis here in Brazil, it's a political, healthy, it's a very, very, very strong political crisis here, and we are going to have a very strong economical crisis too. No, and Brazil is a country with a lot of diversity, so some communities will feel much more than other communities. The minority might feel, like me, might feel less.
Mhm.
Um, People are complaining that my sound is with echo. I will change my place to see if I get better. All right? You understand?
Sure.
You can you hear my echo? Or no. Let,
Let's try again.
okay. Now it seems better now, isn't it?
To me,
O-
it's good.
Okay. Uh, okay. I think it's better now. Um, so we are going into this crisis, and this crisis is moving a lot people in their homes, in their communities, and the way we live, right? So that's, I think, is important to point out the political and healthy problems, because that is what is affecting a lot of people at this moment,
Mhm.
and somehow we have to find a way to deal with this situation at home and deal politically with this situation now. Mm. Uh, so what I feel here in Brazil, that we have to think in different points. No, for example, in the kind of community that I live, that is middle class and something like that. So it's easy for us to stay at home. It's not so complicated. So we might suffer from emotional problems, psychic problems, um, uh, dreaming problems, but we can deal with the economical problems better than others, somehow. Even, of course, that I'm not a person in a very substantial economical situation. It's just normal. But we can deal with the situation. And people at home, usually they feel afraid, mainly from being only at home between four walls. They can feel afraid of what to do, the future, and how to work, what's going to happen. And that creates, of course, lots of anxieties, anguish, uh, and mainly lots of fear, of course, of the uncertainty and or of the unknown that we have in front of us. Uh, so I wonder, how are you dealing with that uh, at home, as you also are?
Well, I live in a rural community, meaning in the country, so there's a lot of nature and a lot few people. So here, similar to what you say, um, and in the United States as a whole, but we have to remember that the United States is actually 50 different states with very different uh, economics, the different kinds of people who live there. So there are different issues. However, I would say as a whole, it's very similar in the sense that there are some people, and the economy as a whole is starting to show great great challenges, and different people have different challenges, but the economy, the paying the rent, potential evictions, work, all of these very, very existential issues are very, very present to many people.
Yeah.
And if a person has to be in an apartment building with many other people in a city, they may not have the luxury of going to nature, which is so healing. Everything is building up, and everything that before maybe was a small put in the background, suddenly it's moving to the foreground, and there is a sense of helplessness and the loss of the ability to choose for oneself, the lack of sovereignty on the individual level, on the work level, on the community level, even the basic human instincts that in times of strain, people want to come together and want to hug each other, want to say hello. So all of that is in question and forbidden in many ways. So
Yes.
these are extraordinary times.
Yes. I have a history that I could share that might be an example about what you're saying. For example, the other day, it was the birthday of my granddaughter. She was doing 9, and we had a little party in the garden where everybody stayed far from each other with masks, etc. And we did celebrate in this way her birthday, and she was happy, and we had a birthday song, etc., etc. And then her mother shared with me that when she went to sleep, she was a bit crying, and she said that the mother asked her, my daughter asked her, "Why are you crying?" It's because I couldn't hug everybody when they gave me all their presents and the gifts, etc. So this is something that belongs to human being, the wish and the desire to to be together bodily, in present, face to face.
Yes.
At the same time, what impressed me a lot is the capacity of the human being uh, to search for contact, even in these extreme situation that we are living now. And the power nowadays we have internet, we have online work. In other situations in the past, it was totally different. What you could do during a crisis of virus or even political crisis, like in Europe during the two world wars, etc. No? Um, so I can see that the drive for be together, comes even without the possibility of being together in presence, and that drive creates new sensation, or not new sensations, but it intensifies sensations or senses that we didn't use so much before. Like, for example, a blind person, usually the person has to develop intensity of hearing, so that he can have the notion where he is from the different sounds he can get from the world. And now we have one disability, which is the impossibility, not possibility of being together in the same place, uh, but we have to intensify other senses, like attention, like uh, hearing or looking better, intensify that, and
Yeah.
resonance and empathy. And I'm not sure if you thought about that or not. If you want to share something about this? Uh,
Yes, absolutely. I think that in this medium of the internet, it brings beside touch that we can't have. And we can speak about it in a moment, the importance of touch. But I think it brings as well a lot of the qualities that makes us so special as humans, the ability to for empathy, to the ability to resonate with each other on the emotional and on the spiritual level and on the heart
mm,
level,
mm,
that it allows us to extend ourselves
mm,
far beyond our physical space. Like right now, I'm near Seattle, and you are in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and there are people that are tuning in, maybe from England, from Ireland, from different Israel, from different parts, and yet we are sharing space together. And it's not physical space, but nevertheless, the field, our field of awareness is real. And so it's not that I'm looking at a flat screen, but I'm actually interacting with you as a living being, a feeling being, a thinking, a spiritual being. And that's something that I am aware that there are people listening in. So even though I don't know who they are, I'm aware of them. And
yeah.
that is something that really this medium sharpens these qualities that are so very important to realize we have, and that's what actually makes relationship work, because that element, but what happens between two people is not physical at all. And that's what the internet in these times really shows to us, our ability to be so much more than physical.
Yes, and also I don't know if it works like that for you. I found out that this drive to be together is very much intensified now, especially through internet, and that brings a kind of intimacy that maybe in the normal life without the internet we wouldn't have, you know.
Yes, yes. I mean, like right now, I'm visiting you in your home. It's
Yes,
not, or clients are visiting each. We are visiting in each other's home, and it's not our professional setting necessarily.
yes,
So there is a lot of intimacy,
yeah,
um, and a lot of attention. We really have to be attentive to each other. Like I
yes,
have to be very attentive to you right now.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
so I think what's special is our ability to change and adapt, and that is showing that we can change. Sometimes we forget that we can change. A lot of time we change under duress. We don't choose it, but then once we are in a situation, it's a great wonder to see how we want to do the best we can in a situation.
yes,
So that's something to be proud of, I think, as humankind.
yes, and I wouldn't dare to say something like, for example, that maybe some people in this world, I will not say everybody because that would be a bit too much, but I believe at least a minority is changing a lot. And I believe also human beings, they are becoming more therapeutic to each other. It means we are caring more for each other. Not the majority, but one minority, yes, and that goes a little bit towards, I think, your work. You talk about interconnectedness, and you talk about spirituality and love. Would you Would you say something about that? Because I know this is something precious for you, and I think we can share a bit about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's a great opportunity, really, to say that I think everyone changes. The question is in which direction, and it's important not to quantify or qualify change. So change is a natural thing for humans. You know, every moment never comes again. It's
Yes.
something I remember very well when I was about 6, 7, somewhere there. I realized that every moment is a one time. That this every moment it's one time. I never gonna have it again. And it made me so sad. And I remember going to my father and sharing with him that every moment is so precious because it's not going to come again. And then over time, I realized how wonderful that is. That life is a stream, it's a movement, and nothing is stationary. Even a subatomical particle, an atom, a molecule, everything that makes our body is in a continuous. And to see that movement is very much the essence of life. So I would say that we all change, but in different ways. And one of the things that mattered to me a lot as a therapist and as a teacher is to connect to that essence, to that place that Gerda Boysen, the founder of biodynamic psychology and biodynamic psychotherapy, she called it the primary personality. But I would even say that the independent well-being, that place that a person can be grounded in something that is greater than the sum total of their experiences. That to me is so important to reconnect to as we are changing through our life experiences. So for me, that's one of the very important aspects that I work a lot to connect to the independent well-being. And one of the ways that I think makes it relatively an open space, an open path to it is nature. So I do a lot of different kinds of work to connect to the way we perceive nature as bodily, as somatic experience, and as well of working directly with nature outside, like really going and interacting with it. But I think that it's very interesting to see how so many images that we have from our own unconscious, from the collective unconscious, have to do a lot with nature. And we speak like that a lot, no? So that's something that for me is very, very important, to find the path to the independent well-being, to the curiosity of being alive. After all, life is a gift.
Mm.
And it's so very precious, and that then brings a natural empathy and compassion that is not from a moral point of view, but from the interconnectedness. Yes.
It's like coming from the organism. And I think the things you were talking is very interesting, because to get to this point inside, it's like somehow we need to stop, you know. And now we are kind of obliged to stop, you know, and obliged somehow to go inside and leave the outside world a bit outside of our walls, and we go inside. It's the opportunity to get to know yourself, I wouldn't say better, but just to get to know yourself, and breathe into that, and maybe you're going to find some waves of good and bad sensations, or you are starting to get to know different sensations. Like I heard the other day that in the heart there are places for everything, and from each parts of the heart, these places, they come to be expressed when you have time and space for that. And we are living in a different way, time and space at this time, at, at in this occasion that we are
Yes.
facing, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, very much so. I think that we could say that the different aspects of us actually have different rhythm, and rhythm is time. What happens between 2 points, that is time, and that's where experience happens. And that when we slow down, the voice of we could say that we have as well our own emotional heart, and as well we have a larger heart, like a universal heart, or even we could take it even bigger, a cosmic heart, a place that we are all included, and yet we are individuals within it. I like to think very much about that from a center, we are the center of, we could say, of creation. We each are an individual ray of light, like from the sun.
Yes.
And yeah, we're each a ray of light. And then we get a body and we come to live our life and experience things in an individual way. And yet there is so many things in common. We all experience very similar things, but in a bit of a different way. And to open ourselves to diversity,
Yes.
and to be inclusive of what is different.
Yes. Yes. That's fantastic, because I think that's the main thing in this world at the moment. We need to learn, how to include in our lives the difference, the different, the diversity. And
Yes.
that leads me to the point that you brought before about curiosity. Only a curious people will find the different things in the world. Only a curious people finding the different things in the world can bring them in and create something new out of that, and be creative out of that. Only when you mix different colors, you are going
Mhm.
to have a colorful world. And
Yes.
another thing is that this connection with the environment, that you said before, the environment, the nature, it's also something that is coming out now, that once you are at home, nature becomes very important. So you get interested in the sky, in the blue sky, in the gray sky, in the clouds, in the trees around you, in the rain, when there is rain, when it's cold. So it becomes something important around you, the environment, and to preserve the environment, because the environment is very different too, very different. The environment is one of the diversities we have around us,
You, you,
and that, yes, please, please,
that is say about the environment. It's interesting that what's within, so without. And if we don't take care of our own body, which is our own environment,
yes,
huh?
yes,
Then it's difficult to take care of the outside environment.
mm,
And so when we start being as well curious, not just worried, because when we are worried, then we want to fix things. We want to make it right. But when we are curious, then we move into a creative process. Like, what is it that I need to eat? When do I want to drink? Not what is written in some website or magazine, but what is right for me. And then we have time to look at their environment. Like where I live, there are lots of forests that are grown for lumber, just to build houses and so on. And it's called monoculture. So there's only one kind of a tree. And
In Seattle, in Seattle, in Seattle.
Yes, in Washington State. And no animal wants to live there.
Yeah.
No animal goes to live there because they are dead forests. So that shows that nature is a mix, is an ecosystem, just like our body is an ecosystem. We have other beings living in us, like the biomes, the microbes. Yeah. So we have an interconnected nature inside, and to take care of the outside is difficult if we don't take care of the inside. So, excuse me. So that's something that we need to see how we take care of ourselves, then we can the outside and vice versa.
Yes, I really agree with that, and that connection between your inner nature, and the
Yes.
nature around you is another kind of dialogue, no? And it's a dialogue that comes from the unknown too, because we don't know all the nature we have inside us, as we don't know all the nature that are around us, and they talk to each other most of the time, and sometimes they surprise us with something new, you know. And as you said, uh, in fact, this remind me a history of a patient of mine. He said when he was young, he used to live in an apartment, you know, and his room was facing other buildings around him, everything in concrete, you know. And he said in the beginning he was very helpless at home, you know, and he didn't have any human contact, and his connection were with the buildings around him. And it's kind of threatened, not only threatened, but was quite dead, you know, the
Yeah.
situation. And one day he moved to another apartment, and from his room he could see some trees. And then he said that at that day he was reborn with
Wow.
the trees. By looking at the trees, the movement of the trees, the color of the trees, etc., he could breathe again, and he felt alive again. And
Yes.
that became very symbolic in his life, you know. It's
Yes.
how important it is to come out from helplessness, you know, into life through contact with an alive being, as a tree, for example, you know.
And what's so
So,
amazing about nature, it's absolutely unconditional and it's not judgmental. And it doesn't care who is leaning against it. The tree doesn't move away because the person has a bad perfume or because of color or because of how much money they have. It gives, nature is in a continual giving and receiving. And it's so, it's so, it's so, I need to have a little something.
take your time. We have time. By the way, what are you drinking?
I was,
We
my
call
first,
this, it's from the
mate,
gauchos,
see, from the gauchos.
because people don't know here, but it's very interesting. Anat was born in Argentina,
Yes.
and her name is Anat Ben Israel. Ben Israel means she's son or daughter from Israel, and in fact, she was living. You were living in Israel for most of your life, I think, you know.
I
And
by now,
then you,
yeah, I lived in Israel for many, many years. I grew up there as well. And then I moved to England. And then I moved to the United States. So, but I love my Argentinian roots. And that's where I landed here on the planet. It's fantastic. And I drink mate, which is the Argentinian traditional and very, very popular drink. And now my throat is cleaner. So it doesn't sound like I swallowed a frog.
We
And,
we have that in the south of Brazil too, the mati. They
oh,
drink
yeah.
exactly like that with the same pot you have there.
Yeah.
Um, but I was thinking here, how maybe you could share a little bit, how you help people to get more wellness and more spirituality at these times online. What do you
Mm.
do?
So I, one of the ways that I would say I create an experience. If we're thinking that in order to connect to any part of ourselves, what we need is a frame of reference. And so I work a lot in these particular times, whether it is as a group facilitator or as one-on-one as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, especially when there are very strong emotions. A lot of people are dealing with fear, anxiety, some of it of their own, and some of it is, I would say, perpetuated by an external situation, which it's the COVID-19, the virus. So one of the ways that I work with is with using the breath to connect to the body. And then I work a lot with eyes closed so we can move into a different experience than what our eyes see. Because as long as our eyes are open, it's 80% of all of our experience ends up being visual. So I invite the person to close their eyes, and then I create it in the moment. It's not premeditated. I don't plan it ahead of time. But I move into a space in myself of that curious, open, heartful space.
Okay, let's
And
let's let's take that as a suggestion for the people that are at home nowadays, and maybe they are listening to us now. Some kind of exercise they could do for themselves. So please keep going with that.
okay, so we could just do a few moments. We can
Yeah,
actually do it,
yeah, sure, sure.
right? So we could simply just, and I will do it. So there will be nothing to see,
Yeah.
but we could just close our eyes and let the eyes look down into the body so they start to rest, and they start just nicely just rolling a little bit down towards the body, and just to pay attention to what are the sensations at this moment in the body, what are the sensations. And the arms can be, the hands can be on the thighs, so they are resting. Now bring our awareness to the breath, and we allow the breath to deepen and become a little bit fuller. We inhale softly through the nose so our breath can be deeper. And we can exhale through the mouth or the nose, what's more comfortable. And as we inhale, we can follow the breath, the movement of the air, seeing it moving up and then washing from the inside the body with fresh water. We're inhaling freshness, and as we exhale, the body is washed with the coldness of the water. We can follow it from the top of our head, moving down through the center of the body, down the legs, all the way down to the ground. And we can imagine that our feet are touching warm water. So while we are cooling from inside, our body is relaxing and expanding, and the skin is soft, and our face is soft, and the chin is slightly towards the throat, so the back of the head is open and the energy can flow at ease. And we can imagine that there is a very soft breeze around us and around all of us that are sharing the conversation at this moment. And that this breath, this wind that is around us all, is nourishing, is filled with the life force, is protective, and connects us all at this moment, at this time. And we are comfortable. And we can bring our awareness to the center of our chest, and we can put a hand on our chest bone, on our sternum, and feeling the softness of the chest as it's moving with the breath. And at the center of our chest, there is a bright, shimmering sun. And we are filled with the warmth of life at this moment. We can bring our other hand and both hands meet as in Namaste, and they are resting at the center of the inner light. And in the center of that sun, we can place a word that can support us and nourish us at this moment, and can connect us to. And then we gently bring our head towards our hands, so the head is in oneness with the body and its sensation at this time. And we become aware of the sensations in the body. And we press the left hand to the right hand so we can feel the body and of ourselves. And then slowly we raise our head. We let our hands part. And very softly we open our eyes, looking first down and then straight forward.
Ah, how
Mhm. So how
I
was
had
that, Ruben?
I had this beautiful sensation at the start when I felt my eyes, my physical eyes, resting in my body, like my body supporting my eyes, and then
Oh,
floating in the water. This was
yes.
fantastic. For the first time, I felt really the balls, of the eyes resting in my body and then floating in the image of the water with the whole body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's sometimes what I do, and um it just gives room to deal with some more difficult emotions, difficult situations. It gives a larger experience of life,
yeah,
especially in times when people are so told what to do. It's not easy.
yeah, exactly.
And yeah, and
And to be centered, in these times of chaos, sometimes it's pretty hard, to be centered, to be on the vertical level,
yes.
because the messages we receive, either from politics or from health system, it's very variable. There are different kinds of messages, and all of them are true because
Yes.
when you say something, you believe on that. So beliefs are dominating the world at the moment. You believe in that, you believe in that, you believe in that. So there are so many beliefs, like a religion, either in science, either in politics, either in the healthy system, either in religion too. So the chaos is there, and it's very important that you have time to do what you offered us now, just to go back to yourself and find your center. Find find your center, and then you can deal with the situations in from a different perspective, from your perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this chaos is so, it affects us as well. Our immune system is
Yes.
gets weak.
Yeah.
The more uncentered, the more frightened or worried or helpless. All these very, very strong um, experiences and emotions that people have, insecurity, doubt. Well, there are others feeling betrayed as well. Yeah. So all
Oh yes.
these,
Oh yes.
right? Even betrayed by one's own body, betrayed by on external situations. So connecting, we do have choice, even when it looks like we don't. And so coming back inward and then seeing that there is a whole world that we can share, that it doesn't make us less connected because we don't see each other. But this internal world, and when I use images from nature, is because we all experienced cold water when it's really nice temperature and warm water, and how
Yeah.
our skin, when we are tense, everything feels tight. So instead of saying relax, which is not easy, if there is a sensation, so to ground images in somatic or in body sensations, it is real for us. And then the body responds. And
Yeah.
then we feel better. And then when we feel better, our immune system feels better. And like you say,
Yes.
then we are centered. And it's very
Yes.
interesting that this movement of bringing the one side to the other and bringing
Yeah.
them together, that it allows us to feel the oneness of ourselves, and then it's easier to feel not alone. that even though you're in Brazil and I'm here and there are other people there, that we are not alone. So we don't have to accept separateness as our reality. We can accept
Yes.
connection and heartfelt self
Yes. Yes.
connecting with each other. That it, whatever your belief is, that there is some things that are essentially common.
Yeah.
And
And no
that's,
matter the distance we feel between us,
yeah,
it's not the metric distance. It's not a distance itself. Just a moment. I have to plug my computer, otherwise we finish the battery. One second, please.
oh yes, it's a time, it's a time of breath
Okay.
and breathe.
Okay. Good. Now it's okay.
Just wanted
battery is important. So
we are
let's go.
charging.
Yeah. And that remind me also, as you talked about Gerda, the question of homeostasis. No, when we find well-being inside,
Yes,
when you have homeostasis working, which means what you're saying before, we need to find a way to get homeostatic. I mean, to have this homeostasis working.
yes,
Otherwise, we started to create inflammation and the lack of flow, right? And
yeah,
that happens in the brain, and it happens in the body, in different places of the body.
absolutely.
So it's very important to find homeostasis inside, which means the dynamic movement in the body, even if it's up or down or too much up or too much down, but it's not blocked. You know,
Yes,
and Gerda used to say, once you have that working, you know, then the healthy system is better, and then you can face the problems in a much better way. If you are blocked, then the armor will create problems for you, instead of helping you. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's as well too because a lot of times in the biodynamic work we have the biodynamic touch, and so we
Yes.
can use different techniques to touch the body and to help the homeostasis, to help
Yes.
to come to balance. And in this medium, yes, the person can touch themselves, and it's very, very efficient and beneficial,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, to work on the body. And that's something that we can do as well, to touch oneself. However, it's interesting that the combination of touching oneself with the therapist, so together, because we are the ones doing it, we can't fully let go. So it's very good for grounding and centering on that very physical level. But the emotional level, the connection emotionally, with this, I would call turning inward. I don't call it meditation, because it's not about stilling the mind. It's about connecting to oneself, and gives, I would say, a state of relaxed awareness.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Exactly.
and that,
Relaxed awareness is something sometimes for some people it's difficult to understand. It's like to be aware means to be in touch with you and the environment at the same time, in a quiet way, right?
yes.
So that you are there without tensions, something like that, right? Yeah.
And that's so beautiful to use the word patience, because the more hyper we are, which is in stress, the less patience we have and the more instinctually we react. We don't necessarily take the time to sit with some things and to give room for it, and to, because we don't have space. When we are stressed, we don't have space inside. It's a real experience. And so instead of trying to get rid of it, if we go a bit inside, inward, and we use the breath to switch from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic.
Yes.
So instead of,
Yes.
so instead
Yeah.
of doing it psychologically, we do it physiologically.
Yes. And that's exactly what I was talking the other day. Is like your brain or your thoughts, they cannot resolve all your problems. Sometimes you find the solution in your body. So if you just relax into your body, then that's the better solution you might find, and then you are going to be able to create new thoughts. But if you stay all the time in the brain, it's difficult. Yeah.
It's very difficult
Okay.
because as well the brain is working a lot with associations. So it can
Yeah.
go on and on and on, just feeding.
Charging. Like
Yes,
the sympathetic system is always charging, and we lose the opportunity to be parasympathetic, which means just to get down, to relax, to go to yourself. Anat, we are getting almost 1 hour, so I think almost 1 hour. Yeah, it went quick, right?
it has.
So I think maybe it's time to just relax now. Go
To
back
take some
home.
breath.
Go back home.
Yeah.
Have some mate, which we call here chimarrão.
Yep.
Chimarrão in the south.
Mara.
Chimarrão. And maybe next time we do it in Spanish, so people in Brazil and South America and Spain and Portugal can understand us in a language that's their language too. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruben,
Thank you.
for sharing this time together, and with everyone that was online. It was inspiring to me
Yeah.
to converse with you. Thank you so much.
For me too. Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday
Thank
in
you.
US, and I hope things get better in United States bit by bit. But I think this revolution is very, very important. It should have happened, and it must change something so that uh, especially black people can be well treated in the United States, and not only black people, everybody that needs good treatment, and also in Brazil too. Uh, I hope things get better here too, because it's really not easy here at the moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the
Yeah.
liberation of the heart.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
I learned a lot from you. Thanks a lot. Some people are sending some messages.
Yes.
Some people you know. Some people.
Yes.
Okay. Bye bye. Ciao.
Ciao.